Mr. Beast will replace Warren Buffett. I mean, it's not like he will get rid of him. But Jimmy Donaldson is not what you think he is.
So I think in 10 years, YouTube's going to be ginormous, and I just want to be the biggest YouTuber in the world in 10 years.
Behind the mask of an above-average ambitious YouTuber is something more. An individual that will join the Hall of Fame of finance, along with powerful investor legends such as Warren Buffett, Stephen Schwarzman or Ray Dalio.
What?
The next Warren Buffett will not be from Omaha, Nebraska, and he will not start a conglomerate called Berkshire Hathaway. But it's quite likely he will be called Jimmy Donaldson. In today's video, we are going to put on the psychopath lens and are going to make some shocking discoveries about Mr. Beast. How he's building unfathomable wealth and power, and if this could be a moment like the LBO wave in the 80s that minted some of the world's most influential billionaires. Is Mr. Beast riding a wave we don't know anything about? And what are the principles and methods that can allow us as ambitious viewers to attempt the same? By now, most people have heard about Mr. Beast as a creator. The 23-year-old YouTuber frequently breaks YouTube records by giving away money, cars, islands, producing videos with mind-boggling effort involved, such as Squid Game in real life, with an estimated $3.5 million in production cost, and by pioneering an entirely new YouTube channel business model, cross-subsidizing your main channel with side channels. Not only did he rise to mainstream fame, for example being the first YouTuber to be portrayed on the cover of Rolling Stone. In January 2022, Forbes ranked Mr. Beast as YouTube's highest earning creator, earning an estimated $54 million in 2021. But all of this greatly understates what Mr. Beast really is becoming.
I want the fucking money.
A top-tier investor. And other top-tier investors have started taking notice.
This guy's clearly on track to being an enormous figure in culture. Oh, he's going to be a fucking multi-billionaire.
Now wait a minute. Every finance bro and aspiring bait man following this channel should be very surprised by this statement. Mr. Beast, a YouTuber? What does he have against the big finance silverbacks? Sure, he can get rich, but how is he ever going to join the Hall of Fame of finance? Well, obviously Jimmy is not quite there yet. But there's 3 reasons that contribute to him slowly but surely turning into the Warren Buffett of our century. His revenue machine, fueled by his YouTube success. His genius business building strategy resembling a venture studio. And a secret man in the background who's instrumenting Mr. Beast's success and has a very special agenda for his next steps. If we just do some basic math, Mr. Beast's channel gets about 10 million views a day. Next, we multiply this with an average YouTube CPM. CPMs vary greatly, and if you talk exclusively to highly ambitious psychopaths like our channel, it's incredibly high. But for Mr. Beast, we are going to assume a conservative $5 CPM. Anyways, this calculation will be shakier than any client model I've built in my management consulting days. A $5 CPM lands him at $50,000 ad income
per day.
So $1.5 million per month, 18 million per year. Now, let me tell you a secret. It's usually fair game to simply double this number in order to account for brand partnerships. Those are sponsors of Mr. Beast videos that don't go through the regular AdSense system or the kind of 1-minute sponsoring messages you see on my videos sometimes. Bam! 18 million suddenly turned into 36. Anything else? Well, that's just one channel. Mr. Beast has freaking more than 10 channels. All combined, they almost have the same amount of subscribers as its main channel. He doesn't do brand partnerships on many of these channels, but it's safe to assume we can add another 18 million, the equivalent of his main channel ads revenue, to the equation. $54 million. Lastly, you might have noticed that many YouTubers sell merch too. There's no rule of thumb on how to calculate merch revenues, but conversion rate of fans into merch buyers obviously plays a huge role. We could now make a lot of assumptions, discuss worst case, base case and best case scenarios in a Monte Carlo simulation, but fuck it. I'll do this investment banking managing director style. I know that many YouTubers' most lucrative revenue stream is their merch, better than Google ads, even better than brand partnerships. So let's just smack another $25 million on top of his earnings, dear associate. This is partner approved and I'll justify it in the steering committee if needed, okay? $79 million per year. Holy guacamole. Now, bear in mind, we completely ignored the cost side in our sophisticated analysis.
Because like actual cash, I'm probably the poorest person in this room because we just
I doubt that.
Cash is grass, baby.
Yeah,
I doubt that.
We like if I make $3-4 million a month, I just spend it on videos the next month. We literally like have razor thin margins and just reinvest it all.
According to Mr. Beast, he runs the main channel at a loss, which means the profit he takes home at the end of the day is likely much lower than almost 80 million. Nevertheless, these revenue figures are impressive, especially considering the fact that they are growing at a pace that's comparable to a high-growth startup, and they are relatively stable and safe from crises, baby please. But these are rookie numbers in the high finance racket. Speaking of which, many of the world's top investors own art, lots of extremely expensive art. Around 1 year ago, I was driving home from work in Shanghai and was on the phone with a representative of Masterworks, who guided me through some of the opportunities to invest in art through their website. I loved the idea of being able to invest in art but not having to allocate a majority of my personal net worth to it. Because the fact is this: contemporary art prices outpaced the S&P 500 total return by 164% from 1995 to 2021. And as a startup investor, it immediately made sense why Masterworks was able to achieve such a high billion-dollar valuation as a startup. Getting started with Masterworks is super easy. It takes just a few clicks. You visit their website, create an account, browse their artwork, and you can diversify your portfolio with one of the most stable assets around. But how can you sell the art again? If you don't want to wait until they find a buyer, Masterworks also offers a secondary market on their website where you can sell your shares to another member. The stock market has been crazy recently. In fact, nearly every top equity firm is projecting real returns of 5% or less, and Morningstar is even predicting negative growth. The majority of wealth managers say it's a good idea to diversify your investment portfolio now. You can gain priority access by clicking my link in the description. Feel free to check it out. Back to Mr. Beast's rookie revenue numbers. Bill Ackman casually lost $400 million on his Netflix trade within a few months. That's 5x the 80 million Mr. Beast number we just calculated on a single trade. The finance elite would certainly tell Jimmy to pump those numbers up. On top, just thinking in terms of net worth, let's assume the 80 million we calculated is pure profit. It would still take Jimmy 100 years to get into the leagues of Bill Ackman or Peter Thiel. And don't even think about Buffett and his 100 billion plus net worth. He'll never join the Hall of Fame of finance like that. But just looking at these revenue figures does not do Jimmy justice. Better than anyone, he understands that in order to become truly rich, truly powerful, you need to start allocating capital. No matter whether you're an influencer, an entrepreneur, or a meme page. Only through allocating capital can you make your megalomaniacal dreams come to reality in a scalable way. And Mr. Beast has started doing just that. Because he is not a creator anymore. Let me explain. Mr. Beast's activity in the past 2 years fits what BCG described as a venture studio in one of their publications. He essentially started turning himself into a factory. A factory that doesn't produce products, but a factory that produces businesses fueled by Jimmy's massive distribution and business instinct. In 2020, Jimmy launched a rather useless but successful app called Finger on the App, as well as a much more successful virtual brand burger restaurant chain, conveniently called Mr. Beast Burger.
Beast Burger, obviously that's everywhere in the US.
Yep, over 1,000 locations.
Over 1,000 locations.
Just recently, he launched an FMCG company, starting with production of healthy, or let's say less unhealthy, chocolate bars. And he complements these ventures with a number of investments and strategic cooperations that add on to his conglomerate portfolio. This portfolio includes gaming startups such as Backbone, a controller that makes smartphones appear more similar to Nintendo Switch controllers, or even funds such as Creative Juice Funds, a $2 million investment fund that offers creators up to $250,000 in exchange for equity in their YouTube channels. Look, if he was just selling merch or a paywalled community access, I wouldn't be impressed. Any below average IQ YouTuber with distribution would be able to do that.
He's hanging. Bro, did we just find a dead person in the suicide forest hanging? Yes. Seriously, you think that's real?
Did he warn you not to do this?
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah.
You disregarded that warning?
Correct.
Okay, and well here...
But building businesses like Mr. Beast Burger is massively hard. The logistics, the processes, marketing such as LTO items that Mr. Beast Burger leverages a lot, all of this takes a great team to manage. I receive quite a number of pitch decks from startups in the food tech space attempting to build virtual restaurants, cloud kitchens and so on, similar to Mr. Beast Burger, and I always decline because it's such a tough business. All of this shows that Mr. Beast seems to have an above average capability of leveraging his distribution in order to build and invest in ventures. He turned himself into a venture studio, a factory for companies. And for all of these companies he is starting, he needs to make both time and capital allocation decisions. But will his capital allocation skills ever be able to compete in the deep and dangerous finance jungle? Let alone join the Hall of Fame of Finance. Young and hungry business graduate chimps hustle for years. Like the Egypts did with the pyramids, they are building their CV carefully with prestigious brand names and learning opportunities, often honing their skills in multiple finance shops over decades, like their role models before attempting to make bigger and more complicated moves in the world of finance. And Mr. Beast seems oddly naive.
What are your thoughts on Meta?
I'm going to be honest, I have no idea about anything Meta.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not, like literally, you can probably tell by talking to me, I'm like 95% laser focused on YouTube.
I understand.
He is so deep into YouTube that he does not spend any time forming hypotheses about the future world and investments that might make sense based on that future. Even if Jimmy would dedicate himself to becoming a great capital allocator, it would take him years, if not decades, to catch up with 40-year-old finance chads that look back on a successful career in finance and are now starting to allocate capital. But luckily, Jimmy's skill gap does not matter at all. The real reason why Mr. Beast is about to be one of the greatest capital allocators on earth and will join the Hall of Fame of Finance is actually due to a man that acts in the background. Jimmy does not need to decide where to invest and where to allocate capital. He outsources that job and only needs to worry about giving the final go and subsequent distribution. In a way, this is an interesting countermodel to typical investors. They are usually fully in charge of evaluating and making investment decisions, and often choose to partly outsource the post-investment portfolio support, such as marketing. Jimmy is doing it the opposite way, you could say. He's in control of portfolio support, but lets the capital allocation decisions be handled by a man in the background. And that man is Ray Dalio, a young man that has a major role to play in Mr. Beast's success. Dr. started his career working as an NFL sports agent until he stumbled into YouTube talent management and started helping YouTube channels like Dude Perfect with their brand deals and monetization strategies. His talent management company, Deus Media, is working with a very selected batch of highly successful YouTubers. One of them Mr. Beast. But Reed knows about the limited scalability of a business model that's just talent management. He knows that real scale comes through capital allocation. And he has a master plan for that. Reed is by no means a stranger to the game of investing and venture capital. He has many connections to VCs. Since 2020, he has been hosting a podcast with Blake Robbins, a young VC that currently works at Benchmark, one of the most notorious VC firms out there. And as a talent manager, he has exactly what it takes to be a great early stage investor. He can sense who has potential to become big. Reed's next move was genius. In 2021, his company Deus Media launched a venture fund called Deus Ventures, focused on investing in startups in consumer, gaming, and the passion economy. Their vision makes it very clear: we are just getting started. Deus Ventures is a new brand of venture capital. Our LPs are the top creators in the world across YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and elsewhere. Together, we specialize in influence, and we invest in the best teams in consumer, fintech, SaaS, crypto, and health. Any company where customer acquisition is the gating factor, and that customer acquisition is enabled by Jimmy. The team is small but absolutely proper, having gained a lot of experience in large top-tier venture funds, and I predict that we will hear and see much more of the Deus Venture team in the future. It is too early to analyze the track record of Deus Ventures by looking at their fund's IRR, MOIC, and so on, but their portfolio already lists 25 investments, and they will probably add many more in the coming years.
And so yeah, eventually either sell those companies, we go public. I think there'll be a liquidity 3-4 years down the road. Yeah. I'm not sure what that's going to be yet, but that's the goal.
Mr. Beast and Reed are destined to become veritable competitors to the traditional investor landscape we see today, and might very well dethrone some of the biggest investors' track records in the coming decades. Distribution is just too important in the 21st century.
If you can grow enough distribution, if you can grow a big enough brand, then we can build businesses around that.
Jimmy has turned the traditional investing business around by focusing on distribution first, and in Reed found a great partner to supplement investing skills and a broader vision for how to allocate capital on scale. Something Jimmy has no time and interest to do.
He'll always be the guy, the number one guy, the reason people come. And then we have all these other funny characters in his ecosystem of that video.
And eventually, we might see even more personalities with an online following team up with people who handle the finance side of things. Maybe that will even be you. It's difficult to provide a tutorial on how to become the next Mr. Beast, but here is some advice on how to become the next Reed. From Reed himself.
Just start small. Go find a creator whose content that you really like, that has 100,000 subscribers, that you're willing to bet on, and hopefully you get along with them, and hopefully you guys hit it off, and you should just start working for that person and being their manager.